Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Welcome. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Conservative MP Andrew Scheer says Liberal MPs, frustrated with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, are now confiding in the Tories. UCP Government House Leader Joseph Scow announced his government's priorities for the fall session. And police are warning of how predators are now using artificial intelligence to create child sexual abuse imagery.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer criticized the Liberal government for not allowing Liberal MPs to speak out against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He also says Canadians of all stripes are simply fed up with this government, and it's finally time for a carbon tax election.
Consider where we are. It's actually kind of amazing. Liberal MPs are so frustrated that they're not allowed to speak in caucus, they're actually confiding in Conservatives. Yeah. They have to sneak out to the bathroom to have therapy text sessions with journalists, and cabinet ministers call their own colleagues garbage because they're speaking out against the Prime Minister's terrible record. He's losing control, he's losing confidence, he lost the plot a long time ago, so for the love of all that's holy, will he finally call a carbon tax election?
The leader of the Conservatives would do if he was the Prime Minister, he would cut things like the Canada Summer Jobs Program, Mr. Speaker, something that exists in every one of our communities that is so important to employers and so important to kids. Mr. Speaker, do you think that we would be able to maintain our progress on clean water? He would cut funding to First Nations dependent on a real and fair, equitable solution.
Officials at Canada Post say they're prepared to take part in the first phase of Ottawa's gun buyback program. They say retailers are already familiar with the strict rules required to safely mail in firearms. Now, the first part of the initiative would see the Trudeau government buy restricted firearms from retail stores and have them completely destroyed. Over 1,500 models of firearms were restricted in 2020 following the mass shooting in Nova Scotia, which left 23 people dead. Since that time, retailers that have the now banned weapons have been required to safely secure them. Canada Post maintains, however, that it will not participate in the second phase of the buyback program involving individual firearm owners because of concerns with employee safety. UCP Government House Leader Joseph Scow outlined his government's priorities for the fall session. Scow says that includes protecting gun owners' rights here in Alberta, strengthening property rights, and protecting our children.
Alberta's government will also be introducing proposed legislation to preserve the choices children and youth have before potentially making life-altering and often irreversible adult decisions involving alteration of their biological sex. Support students' success in well-being in schools by strengthening the ties between parents and their children's education. To protect fairness and safety in sport by ensuring biologically born women and girls have the opportunity to compete in biological female-only categories, and supporting the creation of co-ed divisions to ensure opportunities for transgender athletes to meaningfully participate in sports.
Thousands of public sector workers rallied outside of the legislature in Edmonton on Thursday. They were demanding better pay and improved working conditions. The province mandated that the Edmonton Public School Board and the union representing support staff workers, CUPE 3550, work with the Dispute Inquiry Board to mend a labor dispute. Members of the union have harshly criticized the move, causing them to stage a protest despite temporarily being banned from striking. Demonstrators raised a sea of union flags near the front of the steps of the legislature, chanting, "Cut back, fight back." Alberta Federation of Labour President Gil McGowan, who led the rally, said the workers are calling for better wages and respect. Close to 200,000 public sector workers across Alberta are currently in collective bargaining. A tentative agreement was reached between the union representing city workers and the City of Lethbridge. CUPE Local 70 represents around 900 workers who are employed in a wide range of departments. Officials say negotiations have been ongoing for about 20 months. Some of the issues raised by the union included cost of living and precarious work, those that would be considered temporary or seasonal jobs. The union wanted more permanent positions in that regard so that they could offer more stability. The Saskatchewan election is just a few days away now. Now, those who want to vote early can do so until the end of Saturday. Polls close on Sunday, and the provincial election will take place on Monday. Both the Saskatchewan Party and the NDP have urged voters to cast their ballots early. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says his government is making changes to help increase the supply of family physicians. Ford says this should be accomplished by expanding a program that covers tuition and other educational costs to include students who pursue family medicine in Ontario.
We're excited to see the impact this will have. Since day one, in addition to the investments we're making to build and expand hospitals, our government has been focused on bolstering our healthcare workforce, recognizing the critical role doctors and nurses play in our health system. We've been working closely with our universities and colleges, our hospitals and associations, and since 2018, we've added more than 12,500 doctors and more than 80,000 nurses in Ontario, with another 30,000 nursing students in school.
Well, we had some cooler temperatures across much of southwestern Alberta again. Jeanette Rocher is now with an early look at the forecast. Jeanette, things should be warming up, however, just in time for the weekend.
Well, it should warm up just nicely, Hal. Yes, as we're seeing those double-digit temperatures again for both Saturday and Sunday. Saturday looking like lots of sunshine, although a little bit breezy as we're seeing those winds from the west gusting from 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. But seeing that lovely 16 degrees on Saturday. Sunday should be even warmer. I'll be back later in the show to tell you all about that. Hal?
Thanks so much, Jeanette. A 40-year-old man has died following a serious collision between a motorcycle and an SUV in Lethbridge on Thursday night. Lethbridge police responded to the collision just after 7 p.m. along the 1200 block of 3rd Avenue South. The investigation revealed that a man on a motorbike was traveling westbound on 3rd Avenue when he was struck, and he struck the SUV attempting to turn eastbound from 12A Street South. The SUV then drove past the eastbound lanes, struck a parked truck before eventually pulling over onto 13th Street. The driver of the SUV, a 68-year-old woman, was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Lethbridge police are continuing to investigate the incident. A panel discussion will be held in Lethbridge at the library on Tuesday, October 29th, to discuss the opioid crisis here in our city. Alvin Mills, founder of a recovery center, explains the importance of having a collaboration of service providers working together to help those struggling with addiction.
I believe it's important that all the frontline service providers start developing means of communicating. We need to develop more of a networking between the different entities. It's getting colder right now. For some of the individuals here, it's almost like a life and death situation. Once that cold comes in, they're more susceptible to the overdose, and the cold that adds to them not being able to wake up, and so the outlook is dire.
According to Stats Canada, there were over 47,000 opioid-related deaths here in Canada reported between January of 2016 and March of 2024. October is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. It appears as though a new kind of abuse is taking shape, and it involves artificial intelligence. Police are cracking down on child sexual abuse imagery created through AI. South of the border states are racing to ensure that those generating obscene imagery of kids can be fully prosecuted. We have more on this report from Noreen Nasser of the Associated Press.
Kaylin Heyman was no stranger to the spotlight.
Kaylin Heyman.
As a child, she starred in a Disney Channel show. As a teenager, she learned she was a victim of deep fake imagery. A picture of her 12-year-old face, along with those of other children, had been superimposed onto bodies performing sex acts.
A man took images of me off my Instagram. It had my face on somebody else's body participating in sexual acts. I was devastated. I was extremely confused, and I still am today. I don't understand how someone's mind can do that or can think that that is okay.
I want to introduce a crime survivor and victim advocate.
My name is Kaylin.
After testifying at the federal trial of the man who victimized her, Heyman used her voice to push for state legislation in California.
This is not only affecting children in the public eye, but also normal kids simply existing. I was passionate because I was very angry, but I was also passionate because I wanted to put a stop to it as quickly as I could.
Last month, a bill was passed that makes clear that artificial intelligence-generated child sex abuse material is illegal under California state law. At the federal level, Justice Department officials are aggressively going after offenders who exploit AI tools to create harmful imagery of children.
We have got to signal early and often that it is a crime, that it will be investigated and be prosecuted when the evidence supports it. And if you're sitting there thinking otherwise, that you fundamentally are wrong, and it's only a matter of time before somebody holds you accountable.
The AI imagery law enforcement is targeting ranges from graphic depictions of computer-generated kids to manipulated photos of real children.
I feel like a lot of innocence got taken away from me. I just wanted to do something. I didn't want to just sit there and watch it unfold in front of me. I wanted to be a part of the action.
These laws exist. They will be used. We have the will. We have the resources. This is not going to be an area of abusive conduct involving children that you're going to be able to engage in with impunity.
It appears as though predators seem to be increasing in numbers with their criminal activities, and that means we should guard our kids and protect them even more. According to Heather Bangle from the Internet Child Exploitation Unit with Alert, predators use social platforms and online gaming to reach kids. Bangle explains how these creeps access them.
They hit them up on Snapchat. They do the quick ad. They have mutual friends. They ask them, hey, how's it going? And then they ask for their Instagram account, and they give them their Instagram account. But that Instagram account doesn't have the privacy settings set up perfectly. And so they can see their friends list. And then they get chatting. Oh, what are you into? They already know where they're at because their Snapchat, their Snap map is on. So they know that they're, like, let's say in southern Alberta. And then, they convince them to send an intimate image. And as soon as that child sends that intimate image, they get a screenshot sent back to them. And it has their Snapchat profile, their Instagram followers, the picture of their face that they sent at the beginning when they asked what they look like, and that intimate image. And then they're threatening them, saying, send me $1,000 or I'm going to ruin your life. Your defense is at home. I know a lot of parents feel like they need to give their kids privacy. Our job as parents and guardians to keep our kids safe. Monitoring their online activity is not an invasion.
Now, the folks with Alerts say luring a child accounted for a large majority, or 77%, of online sexual offenses against children. The annual Trunk or Treat event is coming to Lethbridge for the second year in a row. Uniformed officers and police vehicles decorated will be ready to distribute candy at 2 different locations this Halloween. The canine handler with the Lethbridge Police Service, Constable Christian Olson, discusses how many kids they're anticipating this year.
So Trunk or Treat really gives us an opportunity as members of Lethbridge Police to collaborate and network with the youth in our community. This idea it's pretty common throughout the U.S. mostly. It's an opportunity for police and kids to get together, meet, police officers hand out candy, kids get to get pictures with police vehicles, just build relationships with the community. It's the most important thing. So this year we're expecting approximately 1,500 to 1,700. Last year we did see about 800, 900 kids. So we're anticipating that every year that we hold this event, it's just going to increase. The number one thing obviously is for parents, make sure that you have an eye on them. We're monitoring where they're getting candy from, what candy is going in their bags. The other thing is obviously we constantly preach that obviously safety on Halloween it's a concern. We don't want anyone to become a target of any sort of violent offense.
Now, the Trunk or Treat event will be held at Nicholas Sharon Park and the Logan Boulay Arena parking lot October 31st, beginning at 5:30 p.m. You know, history is filled with world-renowned musical geniuses such as Beethoven and Mozart. Now, many parents have high hopes for their kids to show some manner of talent, but sometimes they need some guidance in where to direct their children's focus. Ray Ross is the CEO of Sound and Soul Music and Arts here in Lethbridge, and he describes a program he offers that allows kids to try a wide variety of instruments.
We developed a program specifically for those people in that category. And it's called Music Blast Off, and it's one of our popular programs. We usually run it twice a year, and it allows we do 1 week of piano, ukulele, voice, percussion, and then we do a jam session for the last few weeks. And so the kids get a feel for a few different instruments, and mom and dad go, okay, I could see that they would want to stick with this one, or this fits, or no, piano's not for them. They want to do ukulele, right? It just gives them a chance to test the waters.
Make sure you catch more of this informative interview with Ray Ross from Sound and Soul Music and Arts and BCN's Jeanette Rocher coming up later in our broadcast. Officials at an Israeli hospital say 2 people have died from their wounds following a rocket blast from Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel's military says the terrorist group fired 45 rockets into Israel on Friday, with some escaping interception. Officials say rocket shrapnel hit an industrial center, which also injured 7 others. Now, earlier on Friday, an Israeli attack in the southern Gaza Strip killed 38 people, and an Israeli airstrike hit guest houses in Lebanon, where journalists were allegedly staying, killing 3 more. TBN Israel correspondent Yair Pinto chatted with TBN Israel host Madi Shoshani, discussing what it'll take to bring home the remaining 101 hostages still being held by the terrorist group Hamas in the Gaza Strip. They say Israel's elimination of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar should help, since he's no longer a threat.
We have, contact with the family leaders, and the Palestinians are like any, family or area in the Middle East, which is run by tribes. Tribal leadership, yes. Meaning strong families. So if we can reach the family leaders of anyone that has any information or is holding the hostages, we can either give them something that they want in order to release the hostages, or pressure them to release the hostages, and they're not afraid of Yahya Sinwar that he will retaliate against their family and their children as children forever.
No, in that sense, I agree with you. It destabilizes things in a way that does allow people to take a risk that they were not able to take in the past.
Exactly.
It also opens the door for chaos.
I don't think Gaza wasn't in chaos so far.
Look,
anyway, it's a chaotic place.
Let's talk internally.
Yeah.
Externally, yes, Gaza as a whole has been fighting against Israel as a whole. But in reality, it's much more complicated than that, as everything is. And there's tons of footage that's come out of Gaza in the recent year that shows the infighting that they have.
Internal fighting and gang fighting.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken met with Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi in London. Now, the Arab leader accused Israel of engaging in ethnic cleansing in Gaza.
We want this to end, and we want to be able to get to a place where we can really talk about achieving a just and lasting peace that will guarantee the security of all. But we meet at a very, very critical moment. As you mentioned, the humanitarian situation is really difficult. We look at northern Gaza now, where we do see ethnic cleansing taking place, and that has got to stop.
We've had very good and important conversations this week, including this morning, on ending the war in Gaza and charting a path for what comes next. And those conversations will continue, but I think this is a moment of importance and urgency that we're working to seize.
Russian President Vladimir Putin neither confirmed nor denied whether any North Korean troops were in his country. It comes as the United States said that 3,000 North Korean troops were deployed to Russia and have been training at several locations.
Как вы знаете, сегодня, по-моему, только ратифицирован наш договор о стратегическом партнерстве. Там есть статья 4. И мы нисколько никогда не сомневались, что северокорейское руководство относится к нашим договоренностям серьезно. Но что и как мы будем делать, это уже наше дело в рамках этой статьи. Сначала нужно провести соответствующие переговоры по поводу имплементации этой статьи 4 этого договора. Но мы в контакте с нашими северокорейскими друзьями и посмотрим, как будет развиваться этот процесс.
It was in this state that the Cuban Missile Crisis fueled the Cold War. China's UNC changed hands, and golfer Payne Stewart was tragically killed in a plane crash. This is Today in History for October the 25th.
October 25th, 1962. In New York, the Cuban Missile Crisis takes center stage at the United Nations Security Council. Ambassador Adlai Stevenson presents photographic evidence of Soviet missile bases in Cuba. Stevenson challenges Soviet Ambassador Valerian Zorin in this memorable Cold War exchange.
You're in the court of world opinion right now, and you can answer yes or no. You have denied that they exist. I want to know if I've understood you correctly.
Continue your statement, please. You will receive the answer in the due course. Do not worry.
I'm prepared to wait for my answer until hell freezes over, if that's your decision.
1971. China's seat at the United Nations changes hands. The UN General Assembly votes to admit communist mainland China and expel Taiwan. 1983, an American-led force invades Grenada to oust a leftist government allied with Cuba and the Soviet Union. President Ronald Reagan calls the action necessary to protect U.S. citizens on the Caribbean island nation. 1854, the battle that inspires the poem The Charge of the Light Brigade happens during the Crimean War. An English brigade of more than 600 men, facing hopeless odds, charges Russia's army during the Battle of Balaclava and suffers heavy losses. 1400, Geoffrey Chaucer, author of the Canterbury Tales, one of English literature's greatest works, dies in London. And 1999, golfer Payne Stewart and 5 others are killed when their Learjet crashes in South Dakota after flying uncontrolled for 4 hours. Stewart was 42 years old. Today in History, October 25th, Carlotta Bradley, The Associated Press.
Well, we had a mainly clear day, but slightly cooler today across much of southwestern Alberta. Fortunately, the mercury will be climbing this weekend here in Lethbridge. Full weather details are coming up. When I was a kid, I used to love getting together with all my buddies, ride our bikes out to the park, rake up all the leaves, create this huge pile, and then just jump in them, you know? You could just disappear underneath all of the colorful leaves. Jeanette Rocher is now with a full look at the weather forecast here. Jeanette, did you ever try that when you were younger?
Well, I can't really say that I have ever done that, at least that I can remember. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I haven't lived until I've tried it. For any of you that want to try it, there's still opportunity this weekend as it is going to be lovely. However, do it before there's too much wind because we are expecting those 50K gusts again on Saturday. But look at that temperature, 16 degrees up to 18 on a Sunday, which is well above average for this time of year. Lots of sunshine as well. Monday, high of 11 degrees, and then we're dropping down to 7 on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, back up to that 11, and then look at what is happening on Thursday, just in time for Halloween. That's what our trick-or-treaters are going to be dealing with right there. 60% chance of flurries, folks, on Halloween, 2 degrees as well, the daytime high. So average high for this time of year, 10 degrees. Average low, -3. 23 was our record high that happened back in 1974 on this day. And on this day back in 1919, Lethbridge saw the coldest on record, which was -26 that day. Ouch. 8 to 10, that's when the sun rose this morning. Sunset tonight at 6:20, giving us 10 hours and 10 minutes of daylight. So 2 minutes shorter of a day than we saw yesterday. Okay, Victoria under a wind warning this evening. We're seeing up to 90K winds tonight. Tomorrow dying down to 70K winds, which is still very windy for that area. Also some rain overnight, rain ending in the morning there. 13 for the high. Same thing in Vancouver, 13 degrees. Now what we've got is a Pacific frontal system moving down the south coast, so it's going to affect Metro Vancouver, the Sunshine Coast, and North Shore, bringing with it some very strong gusty winds. By tomorrow, those winds dying down to only 40K, and looking at rain kind of petering off by the afternoon there. High of 10 degrees in Edmonton and 14 in Calgary, with a mix of sun and cloud in both of those Alberta cities. As we look to the rest of the prairies, we are seeing increasing clouds, actually decreasing clouds. We're going to see more sunshine in the afternoon than we do in the morning for both Saskatoon and Regina. High 10 there in Saskatoon, 12 degrees in Regina, 9 for a high in Winnipeg, with clearing skies there. As we look to the central part of the country, we're seeing more drizzle, more rain. So we're seeing a 30% chance of showers in Toronto, 14 for a high, 40% chance in both Ottawa and Montreal tomorrow, with highs of 10 and 11 degrees respectively. As we get over to the East Coast, let's see what's happening in the Maritimes here. Fredericton, high of 14 degrees, could see some showers. Mix of sun and cloud in Halifax, high 13, 10 for a high in Charlottetown with clear skies, and a high of 12 degrees in St. John's with some periods of rain there as well. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
The federal government's deficit was $9.8 billion for the April to August period. Now that's more than double the deficit of $4.3 billion during the same period last year. The Finance Department's latest fiscal monitor says revenue for the period rose by more than 9% or $16.7 billion. Offsetting that revenue climb were program expenses excluding net actuarial losses, which rose by 11% or almost $18 billion. That was mainly due to Ottawa spending more on direct program expenses and major transfers to provinces, territories, and municipalities. Retail sales in August climbed 0.4% to $66.6 billion. Stats Canada says the rise was helped by higher new car sales, which saw a 4.3% increase and a 2.1% increase as well at used car dealers. Sales at food and beverage retailers dropped 1.5%, while furniture, home furnishings, electronics, and appliance retailers fell 1.4%. Now, when you exclude gasoline stations, fuel vendors, motor vehicle, and parts dealers, however, the core retail sales reading fell 0.4% in August. Natural gas producers here in Alberta and in British Columbia are hoping winter weather and the expected startup next year of LNG Canada will help lift them out of a sustained slump. The price of natural gas has been so low this fall that some companies have curtailed production or delayed their growth plans. There's still a massive oversupply, however, of natural gas storage in Western Canada. That was mainly due to last year's mild winter and drillers having also been ramping up production in anticipation of Canada's first major liquefied natural gas export facility opening next year. Now, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 87 points on the day to finish at 24,463. The Dow was down 259 to 42,114. The S&P 500 was down a point to 5808, and the Nasdaq was up 103 points to finish at 18,518. West Texas Intermediate oil was up $1.44 to $71.63 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 1 cent to $2.52 US. Gold was up $12.86 to $27.4666 US an ounce, and silver was even at $33.67 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.25 per bushel. Barley is at $6.12. Canola is at $14.38. And corn is at $7.37 per bushel. Live cattle were down $1.30 to $183.15. Feeder cattle were down $2.18 to $264.48. Lean hogs December contract was up 50 cents to $78.25, and the Canadian dollar was down over the past 24 hours at $72.20 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, Canada Post says it's prepared to take part in the first phase of Ottawa's gun buyback program. Officials say retailers are already familiar with the strict rules required to safely mail firearms. Now, the first part of the initiative would see the Trudeau government buy restricted firearms from retail stores and have them completely destroyed. Is there a child in your family who would like to pursue a career in music, perhaps maybe learn to play a little guitar? Coming up, we're going to chat with Ray Ross, the CEO of Soul and Sound Music and Arts, who talks more about some of the popular instruments kids today are learning to play. When you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. Also visit our website anytime to check out a number of stories and interviews.
Well, they say music is good for the soul as well as providing a lot of other benefits, but lessons can be so expensive. So is it worth the costs, the time, and the effort to enroll your children in music lessons? Well, joining us to chat about this is Ray Ross. He is the CEO of Sound and Soul Music and Arts in Lethbridge. Ray, good morning. Good to have you with us today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jeanette.
Okay, yeah, you too. So Ray, tell us a little bit about, so you've got Sound and Soul Music and Arts. So what kind of music lessons do you offer? Do you have any specific kind of approach to teaching?
Yeah, so we have several different services that we're providing to the community right now. We're offering private and group instruction on piano, voice, guitar, and ukulele. Our piano program is probably our most popular right now, but we do have interest growing in the other disciplines. So yeah, that's kind of what we're offering. And then our approach, I would say, like our tagline is really sums up our approach, and it's changing lives through the music, through the art of music. And we see that happen every week.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that, changing
Yeah.
lives. So what are some of the benefits of taking music lessons?
Oh man, there's so many. I've got a whole list here that I've kind of come up with that our teachers have seen both in-house and then also research suggests. And I'm just going to list some of them. So number one, enhances vocabulary. So students who study piano for 3 consecutive years demonstrate higher vocabulary and verbal sequencing, other than in comparison to like their non-musical peers. And supports cognitive functions, develops reading and writing abilities, encourages self-esteem. We see that all the time. Increases verbal memory, boosts IQ. You're dealing with a lot of, yeah, you're dealing with a lot of different parts of your brain when you're doing music, both listening and learning. And so, and part of learning is listening, right? So good musicians listen. And so boosting IQ is a big one. Develops empathy in your emotional regulation areas of the brain. Raises math and history scores, believe it or not. Reduces aggressive behavior. Teaches planning. Teaches students their planning abilities. Encourages perseverance.
Wow.
Improves articulation.
A lot.
Yeah, protects against dementia.
It sounds like almost everybody on the planet should take music lessons, just
They should.
by the benefits that come out of it. I would assume it also like develops diligence and tenacity and like everything that goes with it. And like you do hear these studies that show that kids who study music typically do perform better in their schooling and develop better language skills, like you were saying. It's neat how it just kind of taps in to the wiring of your brain.
Sure does.
Yeah. So do you find that, and I think you already answered this, that kids who keep up with it start to show their personal confidence and self-esteem?
Yes. Yeah. So we see this all the time. And it's not just with kids. We have adult students that come in who are dealing with a whole host of different issues outside of learning music. And as they come into the classroom, and they're improving their skill sets on an instrument, they're requiring a lot from their brain and their body. The effects are just really positive in the other areas of their lives. So yeah, self-esteem, big one.
Yeah. What's the earliest age that a child could start taking music lessons?
We like to say like in terms of formal lessons where you've got either one-on-one with a teacher or you're in maybe a small class group setting. We say right around the age that kids are going to start reading. So that varies with some kids. And so we have kids as young as 4, and then we have students as old as in their 60s right now. And so
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool to do this.
Yeah, because I was just going to ask you, what if a child is old, or is it too late for a kid to start lessons in their teens? Typically, guitar starts a little bit later, doesn't it?
Yeah, guitar, the stringed instruments are oftentimes a little trickier. The piano is literally just a bunch of buttons. And so it's pretty easy, but it does require some aptitude for sure. The stringed instruments are tricky because, and you can start them early, but it just has to do with the way that the strength that's required for certain activities on a stringed instrument like guitar. So for younger students and who want to play guitar, we recommend starting with a ukulele first, just so they can get a feel for that motion and the positioning. And then if things go well in that realm and they're really sticking to it, then mom and dad are like, yeah, let's put them into guitar. So,
cool. Is there a way to find out what kind of instrument is best suited for your child, or should you let your child sort of lead that a little bit?
Good question. So there's lots of different ways that you can go about this as a parent. I would say that for sure, there's a lot of different factors that go into finding a good situation for your kid learning music. And so I would say finding a trial lesson that you could take somewhere, finding a teacher that you could do an interview with, finding a little program that you could maybe do a trial on. We actually we developed a program specifically for those people in that category, and it's called Music Blast Off, and it's one of our popular programs. We usually run it twice a year, and it allows we do 1 week of piano, ukulele, voice, percussion, and then we do a jam session for the last few weeks. And so the kids get a feel for a few different instruments, and mom and dad go, okay, I could see that they would want to stick with this one, or this fits, or no, piano's not for them. They want to do ukulele, right? It just gives them a chance to test the waters.
That's a great idea. Now, of course, not all kids are necessarily excited to take music lessons. I know I took piano when I was a kid, and then I resisted it after a couple of years, and so we just kind of stopped it. Now, of course, I regret it, right? But if a kid is being stubborn and they resist taking these lessons, where does a parent go from there?
I would say for sure talk to your teacher. Your teacher is probably your biggest asset in terms of your kid's education. There's lots of things that you can do as a parent to help incentivize the process. But if your kids are, I have students who come who are they might practice once a week right now, and I have students who are practicing 6 to 8 hours a week. So it varies. Every kid's going to be different, and I think ultimately you have to consider what's the kid's interest. Like, are they totally invested in this? And if they're not, then what's a goal that you could work towards to say, hey, let's get you to a certain level, and then we can revisit, pulling you out or shifting your focus.
Yeah. Can they still learn if they're not motivated?
Oh, 100%. I've had students over the years that have come to me who literally they come to my piano lab class, and they're attentive, they do what they're supposed to, they're progressing. It's just slower, that's all. They're still progressing, they're still moving forward, they're still getting through their music. It's just a little slower. That's it.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm guessing there's probably kids who aren't naturally gifted or inclined to be musically that way. So how do you teach those children?
I teach them the exact same way that I would teach anybody else.
Yeah.
When it comes to teaching, you got to have a special skill set to do it. And so the ability to adapt is probably your biggest skill set as a teacher. And so if I got a student who's really, really, really progressing quickly, then I got to keep up with them. Mm-hmm. And if I got a student who's really, really slow, then I got to maybe back my pace off a little bit in terms of what I'm pushing for, and allow them to lead a little bit. And we take our small wins when we get them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
With those students. So,
do you ever get parents who say, you know what, I just didn't realize how much time and effort it's going to take me as a parent to oversee my kids learning music, and it's almost like the parents just want to give up? What do you do in that situation?
Good question. So as much as the parents are your cheerleader at home, your teacher can be your cheerleader at home too, so to speak. So I have parents who reach out to me, hey, I'm really struggling with this week. My kiddo's having temper tantrums. What do I do? And I always recommend that we try and keep music a positive thing. And so kids love a challenge sometimes. And so it'll be like, I'll say to parents, why don't you give them a little challenge? Hey, you play me this line 6 times, and then we can look at having a play date with your friend. Or you can incentivize it with anything in the world, and you're like the parents know their kids best. So yeah, it does take some effort on the parents' part, but
along with those struggles and challenges, I'm sure you get tons of positive comments as well from parents and students.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that one of the important parts, and I think one of the things that's super important when you're learning, is that you're seeing results. And parents, the parents are the ones who can see the results, like probably the biggest, because they're not in the classroom. They're just listening to the outcome of what happens in the classroom. And so if students are able to progress and get some momentum, then their motivation usually increases. their desire increases, their enjoyment increases. And so we try to strike that balance between progress and like making sure that they're learning fundamentals and doing it in a quality way, but then also having some fun too. So
No,
yeah.
exactly. You mentioned earlier that you even get some seniors that are taking some lessons. So
Yes.
what are the benefits for a senior to take lesson? Are there the same kind of benefits for them, cognitively, I guess, and whatnot?
Yes. There's been a few studies that have been released about the prevention on dementia and just like deterioration of our brains, right? As we get older, that happens naturally, and so music is one of the things that can act as a reconnector in your brain and allow it to keep the connections that you've already made. Helps with memory, and it's also a good way to socialize when you're older too.
So how can parents get their kids enrolled in music lessons? Is it just a matter of like Google, look up a music school? How do you know what the best one is?
That's a good question. So I would for sure recommend that people chat in their circle of friends, see what's working for your the people in your demographic, and then a Google search doesn't hurt. It's probably where most people go, and I think that the enrollment process for us super easy. You go to our website and you can actually just self book online. Right into any classes that are available with any teachers that have any availability. We love music, and if your teachers love music, then the hope is that transfers to the students. And so that's our goal: change lives through the art of music.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being with us today, Ray. We really appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Ray Ross is the CEO of Sound and Soul Music and Arts in Lethbridge.
Curling is a unique sport, sometimes described as a cross between shuffleboard and checkers, and of course, all taking place on a sheet of ice. Curling rinks are ubiquitous across Canada, and here in Lethbridge, it is no different. To chat more about curling today, we are joined by Kirk Mearns, the General Manager for the Lethbridge Curling Club. Great to have you with us today, Kirk.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, I love chatting about, and playing curling. It's you and I were just chatting before we got started that I need to get signed up for the curling league in my community. Can you share with us a little bit of the history of the Lethbridge Curling Club?
Yeah, the Lethbridge Curling Club it's been around a long time. It's over 125 years. It started as a lot of winter sports do, outdoors on frozen ponds and wherever ice could be formed. We moved indoors in the early 1900s when they started to figure out sort of they could make ice indoors, but curling really came into its own in the 50s when artificial ice was developed and we could start to really move indoors and make ice when we wanted it and make it the way we wanted to. So the Lethbridge Curling Club was at the old Civic Center since 1950, so for 66 years. We've been in the community a long time.
That's great. And so what have been some of the major bonspiels that have been here in Lethbridge?
Lethbridge has been really lucky. We've hosted all of the big major national bonspiels. We've had the Scotties a couple of times, World Men's, World Women's. We had the Briar just a couple of years ago, which was fantastic. The club has hosted the World Seniors, the World Mixed Doubles. We've been very lucky to host pretty much all of the major curling events.
Wow, that's great. So what is it about the sport of curling that you think really draws people in?
I think it's something that you can do from 9 to 90. It's easy to learn and impossible to master. We find it's a sense of community. People, you get together, it's fun. They can enjoy the social aspect of it, and I think it boils down to it's an open sport where people can learn. It's not expensive. It's easy to get in, and curling clubs are just welcoming places.
Right. And once again, circling back to you and I chatting briefly before we got started, there is that it's an iconic Canadian thing, the smell of the rink. And I know for myself, thinking of those childhood Saturday nights or something, leaving the farm to go to the curling club. Can you talk a little bit about that community building aspect of curling?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that hasn't changed. We're an activity where if mom and dad want to come and curl on a Saturday afternoon in one of our leagues or Saturday night, bring the kids, let them run around and have some fun and sit down and have a pop and some French fries while mom and dad are curling. Chance to get them involved. It's a real family activity and very, like I say, open, welcoming. We're a sport that wants to include everybody, wants to continue to grow.
Yeah. Now, speaking about our Lethbridge curling facility specifically, how does that compare with other facilities in the province?
We're one of the brand newest, if not the newest. We're only 8 years old. We were lucky to work with the city and get a new curling club built when we built the Cavendish Centre here on the west side. We're 10 sheets. We are one of the largest. There are only a couple of 10-sheeters in Alberta right now. We're brand new. We have state-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art ice making plant, and a wonderful viewing area open to everybody. So it's a brand new facility that is as good as there is in Alberta right now.
Wow, that sounds great. So how many members do you currently have in the club?
We have about 600 full-time members. We have we average around 60 juniors in our program. We have a couple of what we would call leagues that just come in and rent. So we have over 1,000 people curling per week in the club in various times. We start curling at 10 in the morning and people are curling at 10 at night.
Wow. That's a significant activity and group of people if you have 1,000 people per week during the season.
Yeah. We're one of the busiest clubs in Alberta for sure.
Wow. And so how does the Lethbridge Curling Club serve the local seniors?
That's fantastic. We have our daytime senior league that runs Tuesday to Friday. It's a really easy league to get into. It runs in very short, sort of little 5-week groups. We put people together on teams. If you don't have a team, you just show up, and we put you together with all of our other seniors. Seniors are a big part of our club, and they spend a significant amount of time here during the day, just curling and making friends and spending time.
Yeah, that community aspect of curling is enormous. Now, how about the other end of the age spectrum? Those students, are there school clubs or let's say phys ed classes that go curling?
Yeah, we have our own junior program that runs on Wednesdays, and that's for kids 9 to 15. We host a high school league. High schools come in Monday and Tuesday, and all the high schools get together and they come in. Very significant, probably the biggest in the province again. Gym classes book our during the school year. We have probably 8 or 10 different schools that bring their gym classes in for an hour at a time, and we have some instructors that pop out there and help out the teachers because a lot of times they don't know how to curl either, and it's all a part of how busy we are and how connected to the community we are.
Right. Now, just to stick with that younger generation for a moment, do you see that there is that interest from the younger generation to be in leagues?
There is, and it's curling has sort of fills that gap. There's a lot of kids that just aren't going to play hockey. They're going to play soccer or whatever it is. But during the school year, they can curl. Anybody can come out. Like I say, we can teach anybody how to curl. It's, nobody sits out. If you come out, you play. There's no sitting on the sidelines. There's no, 6 a.m. practices in the morning, games at 9 o'clock at night. Parents love bringing their kids to curling because they know when it is every week, and their kids have a great time playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly have fond memories from my youth of throwing the rocks down the sheets. And
as do I, but mine was a little bit longer ago than yours.
Well, they're still locked in there, and I know I would probably be remiss not to mention my high school friend Steve Fisher. His family was all over the sheets of ice there in and around Medicine Hat. But now, what about provincial winning teams or maybe future Olympians that might be calling Lethbridge home?
Yeah, we've had some success with some of our competitive curlers, our competitive juniors coming out of here. Kaylee Shannon, the Whitmire brothers. They're like on the verge now of moving to that next elite level, and you never know. You never know sort of how a team gets put together or how it goes. Of course, we have the Scheidegger family with Casey and Jesse. Casey took a bit of step back to start her family. And I'm pretty sure she'll be back into it right away. And Jesse's still curling at a high competitive level. So, the curling, the Olympic trials are this November. So you never know who might get up there and get on a hot streak, and we'll see them on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always great to watch. Now, I wanted to ask you about the cost to join and play in a league.
Yeah, it's curling very reasonable. To be a member of our club, right? Just to be a member and to access practice ice and come in is only $70 a year to be a member of Lethbridge Curling Club. Our main weekday leagues, our big leagues, our big adult leagues, about $380 for the whole season to play. Kids play for less than half of that. Our seniors play for less than that. So for around $400 or less, you can curl for a full season, and you get access to as much practice ice as you want, and instruction, and use of our lounge and all of our other facilities.
Right. Well, that sounds very reasonable for what a person's going to get out of it, and especially the cost of entertainment these days. It's great to be physically active and be out on the sheets of ice. Now, I wanted to ask you, we all probably remember the old straw brooms. So if somebody wants to get into this, what are they looking at as far as equipment costs go?
To just get started, the club will loan you, all you need is a pair of sneakers and a pair of gloves. And if you come out to learn how to curl, we've got some learn to curls. We have brooms you can borrow. We've got sliders that you can slide on. We have all the stuff that you can borrow. So basically, like I say, all you need is a pair of clean runners and a pair of gloves, and you can learn. And even after that, as you start to progress through, it's not that expensive. A broom is $100, and a pair of shoes is $150, and they last for 4 seasons, type of thing. So it's a very inexpensive sport. As you get more competitive, of course, the costs go up. But yeah, starting in curling is as inexpensive as you can get.
Good. Well, hopefully some of the people who are watching this that are looking for something to do through the winter would reach out to the Lethbridge Curling Club.
I hope so. We have our Learn to Curls at September 25th and 26th. We'll get that out on our social media channels and in our advertising and let people know. And we welcome everybody. If you've never curled before in your life, doesn't really matter. Come on in, and we'll teach you how to curl.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, speaking of that person that's never curled before and is thinking of something to do, what would be your sage advice to them?
Come on down and try it. It can't hurt to try it. We have our instructors are so good. They're so patient. They will show everybody. You don't have to be super athletic to learn how to curl. And it's the old thing. You got to feel, a little bit of bad knees, something. We've got devices to help you, get the rock down the ice, help you sweep, help you get it all done. But I think my advice is just try. just come on out and try it.
Yeah, because it's not that physically demanding of a sport, is it?
At the beginning level, no, it's not. Right? Once we teach you how to sweep and you learn how to do that, you'll want to get a little bit better and a little bit more exertion. And of course, the pros at the top level is as physically demanding as any sport. But yeah, to get started, no, we can. It's a recreation at the beginning.
Yes.
Right. It just turns into a sport as it goes along.
Yeah. Now, here's kind of an off-the-wall topic, or question, I should say. So how heavy are the curling stones? We don't have to lift them, thankfully. We can slide them around. But what does one of those things weigh?
They are 40 pounds.
Okay. Well, not bad.
They're 40 pounds worth of granite. So they slide along. We got to push them about 145 feet down the ice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And smooth as silk most of the time.
Smooth as silk. The running band on the bottom touches about 1/8 of an inch of the rock is riding on the ice. And the technology around pebbling and turning it and curling it it's state of the art now. So it's smooth. It smoothly it just slides down there.
Totally. And I think I was told once when I was much younger, if you fall, we'll just push you along too, and you can end up in the house. But
right, hopefully you bounce back up quick enough before we have to slide you along.
Yeah, that's right. So when this new season, well, I guess the new season is beginning, how do people register to participate in the club?
We have an online registration system through our website at lethbridgecurlingclub.com. Or once the office is open, you can come on in and talk to us, and we can register you here. We can give you a tour of the facilities and just give you a whole overview of what you can expect. So online, in person.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you talked about the Learn to Curl. Are there any other events that are going to be coming up as we get closer to November, December?
We are hosting, one of the things that we did mention is in February this year, the Lethbridge Curling Club is hosting the University and College Canadian Championships in our club. Yeah, the U Sports and the CCAA curling championships. So that's a big deal. We'll have 32 teams from across Canada of university and college students here curling with opportunity to go to the Worlds. So it's a big deal. They'll be here for a week.
Wow, that's exciting. That is a big deal.
It is.
So that's February 2025.
Correct.
Kirk, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. I love talking about curling.
Yeah, me too. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
That was Kirk Mearns. He is the general manager for the Lethbridge Curling Club, and you can find more about them at www.lethbridgecurlingclub.com. For all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Michael Clausen. Thanks for watching.